Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about PRs. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, how would you share your feedback if you feel the whole PR has to be redone from scratch and the developer who created the PR had worked on it for more than a month? I would just give my feedback on usually what I do when something like that happens, not specifically a month, but when I feel like the whole thing is basically the wrong approach. I usually just read enough to know, like I read through what I feel is the necessary stuff, and then I do the same thing I do regardless of if it's the whole PR, if it's just a segment. I give enough comments where until I know that if they fix what I have to say, they will have to redo enough work so that it's basically pointless for me to finish. Like I don't go through the whole PR if I know that the first 5, 6 documents that I have, for example, a classic one is they haven't written in tests. I immediately say write some tests, and then I like it because they're gonna have to I'm gonna have to redo the review anyway. So I might as well save myself the hassle of going through the whole thing and giving them like a batch of stuff to look at. I'll just give them enough, and then basically I continue that process until they fix it. And if it is the case that they have been working on this for a really, really long time, I do something that I'm guessing that, well, from what I can tell, I'm not saying that I'm always the only one, but if a lot of people have this, like a lot of the developers that I've worked at the very least, like they get angry or irritated because they get delayed by these people, or like they work for so long and stuff like that. And I usually do this. If I am in a position of really only if I'm in a position of authority, for example, I might mention it to the managers and so forth, because basically if I know that I'm responsible for that we are on time, or that we deliver in a certain in a certain timely manner, right? Then I have to act when I see something like this. If let's say that this was a very easy thing and they took a really long time, and like someone is like empirically unproductive, and I usually, if it's once that this happens, then I can sort of figure out based on the code. I see that okay, there were a few tricky things here, then I'm more forgiving. But if it's something I see as a pattern, then I have to report it, and then I basically let the managers deal with it, because I just tell them that my argument is usually this: I don't care how long you take, as long as your input, like this, like the work that you do, stands in proportion to the role that you're supposed to have. And what that basically means is that if you have a senior level, someone, if you're paying someone a senior salary but they're producing as a junior, then there's a mismatch. And all I will say to my manager in that situation, if I'm the tech lead, is that there's a mismatch here. So you're paying them this and they're producing at about this level. And then I wash my hands of the whole thing, because of things I've said before, guys. It's not my money. I've done my part. I've communicated that I suspect that you're not getting your money's worth for this individual. I give some reasons as to why that is, and then it's up to the manager. It's no different from if I were to work in a company where like if I was a construction worker. If I'm like a fitness person, or like a bunch of us guys there, like we all go to the gym together and we're super super strong and we can work much faster than say a bunch of other dudes who are a little bit overweight or so forth. Then I mean it's our foreman's job to determine if they work fast enough. Just because we are faster doesn't necessarily mean that they need to get fired, because if they can meet the expectations, then that's fine. So if this person has taken a month and the manager has no problem with it, and the product owner has no problem, if nobody has a problem with it, then why do I care? Well, you do care because you know that you could have done this 100 times faster, or like you usually make this about you. You judge them because they're too slow and so forth and so forth. And sure, as I said, it's a given that some people are going to be better at software development than others. The thing that you should avoid, in my opinion, at the very least, is to do that comparison too much, to look at other people and sort of compare, oh yeah, they're slower, they're faster, so forth. That's, you usually don't win there. The only time that is going to give you something is if you can, like, you should highlight this, because from a salary perspective, and like, because as I like to say, I don't care if everybody else is worse than me and my team, because I know that we get it. I mean, if we're meeting our goals, then that's fine. But I do expect to get compensated in proportion to my achievements. So if a bunch of other people are being very, let's say that I can very clearly show that I'm more productive or like whatever, right? Then I expect my manager to notice that. And as long as my manager sees that I'm super, super productive and everybody else is not so productive, and I get rewarded in accordance to my capacity as a worker, then I'm happy. Sure, it can be a little bit frustrating and so forth and so on, but I try to swallow that because, as I said, at the end of the day, what does it matter? But if I always ask the same developers this, like I had that conversation with a developer yesterday who said that she didn't have time to do something that she was supposed to be doing, and she said, oh yeah, but if I did that thing we wouldn't have been able to ship that week. And I said, and so what does that matter? Are you saying that is shipping more important, like even though you are supposed to do this thing, that your job is to do the thing I asked you to do? So I made it my call to say, hey, please do this thing. You did not do it because you prioritized shipping earlier, even though you could have waited, shipped later. And I know for a fact that she could have shipped later. And like, well, yeah, but if he's bad, if we're not shipping as early as possible. And I go, yeah, but you could also cut your, you could work extra hours. You could cut bathroom breaks. Like, you can always make up excuses as to how you prioritize. It's an emotional thing. Like, it's about you. It's the same thing here. What does it matter if it takes this person 1 month, 2 months, 5 months, a year? Like, guys, the worst software developer in terms of productivity that I've ever worked with worked on one story. It was his first story for 9 months, and they fired him, and he never shipped it. And you might think, oh, Fredrik, that must have been a really big, gigantic. No, it was not. It was create a single, in this case, it was a front-end developer, a React page, a single page with one form that if you clicked, you entered some text to this form and clicked submit, it submitted that form. Took 9 months. Dude was hired as a senior level software developer, had 9 years of experience. So in that situation, my entire team, apart from me of course, had complaints. Like, they complained to me, I was a tech lead, and I told them, all right, I have communicated to you guys, because I mentioned this to my manager way before we got to the 9-month mark, and I went to my manager and said that you're paying for this. He has not produced anything. My manager didn't have time to deal with the whole situation and so forth and so forth. So I said to the other guys in my team who came to me in confidence and said, here's the choice for you. Go and talk to your manager. I've already told him all the things you're telling me. I will even invite him. We actually had a sit down, and I said, we talked to the manager. He said exactly, like, they explained exactly the same thing to him. So now they've voiced their concerns. And then I said, it's either this guy or nobody. And you have no power. Like, you have no power. I have no power. He doesn't work for me. I can't just go in and say, hey, you're fired, or so forth and so forth. And complaining about him to his face and making him feel bad is not going to make any difference, because he's not trying to be unproductive. Like, I knew for a fact that he wasn't a bad guy. He's just not very good at what he does. So what I want you to take away from this is that usually the way I shared feedback with people is just normal. Like, it doesn't matter to me, like, if in this situation, if they were super, super slow, I just every single time I do a pull request or like a code review thing, I do the same thing. Always just go through everything, make the comments that I see are relevant and so forth. If it's the whole thing, I usually say like a one-liner or something like that. I think we could approach it in a slightly different way. Let's do a face-to-face, because I usually argue that if you can express something fairly clearly, like in 1-2 sentences, that's a comment. If you need a little bit of explanation and like a few more sentences than that, you usually just go on a video conference or like meet up in the office or stuff like that and do like a pair thing, because it's usually easy, in my opinion, to communicate in those sort of situations. And so if he's been really, really slow, or she has been really, really slow on this thing, I will just if I'm the tech lead in this situation, I will mention it to my manager just so that they are aware of it, and then it's up to them to sort of figure out how they want to deal with this, because it might be that they need to keep this person around for reasons, and so they're just going to keep them around. And as I said, if that feels bad for you, reflect a little bit. Why do you care if your coworker is super, super slow? By comparison, if you really think about it, that's actually pretty good for you. Because if you're gonna get paid and you have some reference of like how, then you get like a reference for how productive you are in comparison to that individual, and that can help you, for example, in a salary negotiation situation, or if it's time to get promoted and stuff like that. That's something worth considering if you so inclined. And try to avoid being too like up in the face of people about these sort of things, because on average people are not trying to be bad. Some people are good, some people are worse, and like we're at different skill levels and so forth. That's at least how I think about it. And if it really bothers you that much that they have to redo it and things like that, then you only ever have that one card to play, which is if the manager isn't doing anything about it, go and work somewhere else. Have a great day.